Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, episode number 192, Star Wars, a 40-plus year celebration of the iconic trilogy of movies. With me tonight to discuss this blast from the past on Star Wars Day, the official Star Wars Day, is my friend, my colleague, my co-host, the one and only Mr. Ross Amico. Hey, Ross.
Hey, Roy. I like the fact that you referred to it as a trilogy because it is.
It is.
Nothing else exists.
Nothing. Right out of the gates.
And it is Orthodox Star Wars Day. So.
And then also joining us is our very special guest. He is my son. He is the one and only Ryan. Rye, welcome.
Hi, Roy. Thanks for having me on Roy's Tie-Dye.
Hey, Roy. Rye. Rye.
So excited to be here with you and Ross today.
Thanks, Rye. And we're very excited to have you here today, too. So we are going to get started and start talking about this iconic movie. Wow. Or I should say movies.
All 6, maybe 9 of them.
You mean all 3 of them?
He's trying to get a rise out of me. A rye. Get it? Rise? Yeah.
Oh, boy. I got it.
Yeah.
So,
get it?
Yeah, I got it.
You get it, Roy?
I got it, Rye. I mean, Ross. I mean, whoever you are. We're just having some fun, folks. Hey, you know what? It's been a while since we've broadcast. It's been probably my God, it's been 3 weeks, Ross? I'm thinking.
We've been pretty busy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, between your schedule and my schedule, it's just been, just been a lot going on. So I'm glad that we could actually do this special broadcast tonight. And we are doing it because Memorial Day weekend is right around the corner. It starts tomorrow. And with May 25th being here and on a Thursday, we thought it was only appropriate to celebrate Star Wars Day, as it really is. And literally 46 years ago, Star Wars premiered in movie theaters. And not many, I might add.
And more to the point, I thought the whole reason we were going to do this is because it's 40 years since the release of Return of the Jedi.
It is.
Yeah, so it's a round anniversary.
Exactly.
And Solo opened on this day also.
Oh, there you go. Whoa. Ross just opened the gates.
In 2018, yeah.
Well, before we get into all of that, I just want to share the slides and just want to make just a couple of comments before we get into Star Wars. I just want to say thank you to everybody involved. Thank you to Warren personally, and also the team that brought Calgary 1999. It was definitely a success in the sense of camaraderie, drink, folks, and a good time. And just wanted to put that out there. It was great to see Nick. It was great to see Yasko. It was just great to see all the fans of Space 1999 there and to share in it. And I have to say, we actually have now a mascot for the show. And I want to say thank you to the folks that actually presented me with this. And his name is Ty. Ty is our new official mascot. So,
there you go. Now, is that, do they know you haven't seen Jurassic Park?
Oh boy, Ross is just releasing the spoilers tonight, folks. he's just on an official roll. No, it's all good. And it's funny too, because we actually did get to go to the Drumheller Museum, which is a world renowned museum that's actually outside of Calgary. And that's actually where that was actually picked up. So it was very, very cool. And so I just want to say thank you to Christine, and I want to say thank you to Nancy for presenting us with Ty as the official mascot.
Well,
and then And then secondly, I want to give a big shout out to the folks at Trek Long Island, which was this past weekend. It was a huge success. Met a lot of new friends, met a lot of old friends, and it was just a lot of fun. And everything came together. And so kudos to Stephanie, Edwin, and Rachel. And it was definitely an enjoyable time. So a lot of Trek guests there, a lot of original series Trek guests, a lot of guests from all the incarnations of Star Trek. Had a wonderful panel discussion with David Frankham, who came in via Zoom. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to come because of the weather that took place in Dallas, but he made it virtually, as well as Dominic Stefano, the son of Joseph Stefano. And then, of course, Barbara Luna was there live and in person. And then Dave Rash, who has been the gatekeeper along with Dominic for the Outer Limits, and they've been on the show before along with David Frankham. So it was very, very special moment just to be talking about it with them virtually and in person. So definitely wanted to put that out there as well. So with that said, before we get actually into Starlog, Ross, first I'm going to ask you, and I know the answer to this, as we were just talking about, not only with Star Wars premiering on this date, but Return of the Jedi. And I'm going to say that you did see Return of the Jedi 40 years ago today.
Absolutely. Yeah. How could you not? Did you?
Yes. I saw it. I saw it with Joe.
Yeah.
And I think Joe Brickman was with us and a few other people. And I believe we saw it up at the Allentown Easton Eric, if I remember correctly.
The Allentown Easton Eric or the Sam Eric?
Or excuse me, the Eric. I'm sorry.
I believe I may have seen it there also. So that would be strange that I didn't see it, because people used to wait online back then. It wasn't like now where you got right into the movie theater. You had to stand out on the sidewalk, and the line would queue early, especially for a Star Wars movie. They didn't have like midnight showings of Star Wars. You got to the first one after school,
Right.
So.
Yeah, in fact, I'm very curious. Rye, I would ask you if you saw it, but I know you didn't.
I think I wasn't even a figment of the imagination yet.
Hey, I want to welcome some of our viewers that are out there. I see Ian is joining us. Ian, welcome to the show. Whoops.
More Star Wars is better. Okay.
Yes.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion. Good to see you here, Ian, by the way. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Ian. And Ian is actually joining us on YouTube. Good to see you out there. Leslie, welcome, Leslie. Great to see you out there, too. Sue is also joining us, and she's saying hi to Rye. And to you, Ross.
Hi.
And to me. And I also see Don Bethman is joining us from Delaware. Sue is joining us from Massachusetts, by the way. And Ian is saying that
he saw it on opening day also. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Let me see here. Paul Miller is in the house. Paul, welcome.
Well, we're all in the same theater, I guess, and didn't know it.
Hey, Jeff Curley's joining us from Texas, and his response is he's never heard of it. Jeff, good to see you out there. I hope you're doing better too. And thanks for being out there and joining us. Yeah, so it's pretty incredible. Leslie's commenting saying, saw Jedi at the Easton Eric on the 28th of May, missed it on opening day.
Yeah, it was a hot ticket, and you didn't really have an excuse, a good excuse. It wasn't like the original one where nobody really knew what they were getting into. It's like once you got hooked on it, you were always there on opening day, standing out on the sidewalk, hoping to get in. So when did you first see it, Rye? And did you see it with the changes, or was it still in the unspoiled original?
It was in the unspoiled original because prior to Star Wars Episode 1 coming out, Dad had actually bought the VCR VHS set. Mm-hmm. So we have somewhere in the TV cabinet is I don't think they have their cases anymore, but 4, 5, 6, and then I think 1 and 2 we wound up getting a little bit later, and it's absent 3 because 3 was still a mystery.
Oh, okay. So we all saw it unadulterated.
As
it was meant to be. Yeah.
Yoda was still a puppet.
Yoda's still
Spoiler.
a puppet. Well, let's face it, though, it is the weakest of the three original movies, but it's still enjoyable. It wraps up the threads, and I know people have issues with parts of it, as we've already been discussing before we went on. But,
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Hey, Ross, real quick, I see Ian is commenting saying, I have known Ross for quite some time, although I think the last time in person was at the War Memorial for a Bill Mack show.
Bill Mack.
Sometime
Bill McLaughlin. Oh, yes. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we have to speak in code here. Yeah, absolutely. That was some time ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeff Rubel is joining us from out west. Jeff, welcome to the show. Good to see you out there. Got to see what happened to Han Solo. Yeah,
right. Yeah, after the nice cliffhanger they gave you at the end of Empire.
Yeah, and that was just it. I mean,
yeah.
The 3 years that went by. I mean, with Star Wars, the anticipation was what is going to actually happen next. And I even remember being with Joe, and I wish Joe could have joined us. I mean, I was half tempted to try to contact him and say, would you want to tune in? And I know it's like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning in Germany.
He's in Germany right now, so you have to stream in from Germany. Yeah.
It still would have been fun to have had him be a part of this discussion, because I mean we lived and breathed this stuff, especially Joe. I mean, back in the day, he was all Star Wars. But I remember being in Mr. Fagan's science class, and it was I guess it would have been 8th grade. And it would have been 8th grade, because it was 1980 or 79, 80. And all the hoopla around what was actually in the Empire Strikes Back novelization, because the novelizations would come out before the movie.
Right.
And it was like major spoiler alert. And let's just say Joe spoiled it.
Yeah.
Did you read the book? Did you read it, Ross, or no? Did you stay away from it?
I did read the novelization. I did. Yeah. But I didn't read a lot of movie novelizations. I was so Star Wars crazy. It's not the same as now. I want to have I would love to have a movie series where I just anticipated the next installment so crazily that back then, we were kids. So like 3 years was like 30 years. Now it's like we turn around. It's like, oh, it's 3 years already.
I know it's like 3 months.
Yeah, but there are no movies have that kind of resonance with me anymore, where I just can't wait. I'll see the Indiana Jones movie, but I don't care when it comes out. It could come out in 10 years, and I'll go see it.
Well, but what's funny about that, and we're diverting already. We didn't even get into like 20 minutes of the show yet. I was really psyched about Indiana Jones when it was coming out in 2008. And I can't believe that movie is 15 years old already. That in itself is
the last one, the Crystal Skull. The Crystal Skull. Yeah.
I was really looking forward to it, and as much as I enjoyed seeing them all all together, it was a letdown. I mean, it just
I don't get my hopes up anymore. It's like, especially with Indiana Jones, it was like already after the first one, they weren't going to live up to the first one.
No,
it's not like Star Wars where they did such a good job with the first one, and then the second one they managed to even, like, in some respects, top it. He said, "Oh my god!" So when Jedi was coming out, our expectations were so high, and it was kind of a step down maybe, but not as bad as like the 5th Planet of the Apes movie or something. But it got close with some of the makeup.
Spoiler alert, folks.
With those hippopotamus men or whatever they were.
The three of us will be revisiting the Planet of the Apes, but we have to have the Haig on, because I was actually talking to him this week, and he pretty much even brought that up. So we owe the Haig either a Planet of the Apes movie, or I told him we could do the series, but and we could even do it like this year. But the thing is, next year is the 40th anniversary. No, what am I saying? 40 is nothing.
50th.
Next year is the 50th anniversary of the Planet of the Apes TV series.
Oh,
so
okay. Well, we could do that.
We could shelve that and come back to it.
Yeah, that was pretty ridiculous, but I'd do it.
Yeah. Hey, Linda's joining us from Canada. Welcome, Linda. Good to see you out there. She said her YouTube is acting up. No idea if my comments went where. Well, they're here, Linda. So welcome. Good to see you out there. And Linda, sorry you didn't make it to the Space 1999 event in Calgary. It would have been great to see you. So that was a bummer that you weren't there. Hope you're doing good though. Ian is saying, interesting. I follow one YouTube who considers episode 3 her favorite, meaning Return to.
It had its. I thought it had its points. I just didn't think it was as consistent as the other two. But that's just my,
Yeah. No, we'll get into that.
We're just correct.
We're just we're just scraping the surface. Don is commenting, to my great regret, I opted to see Basketball Flick one-on-one with Robbie Benson. Eventually caught Star Wars on the second run and was obsessed.
You guys see the Robbie Benson movie.
But you know what? I give Don a lot of credit because he's coming clean on that. So thanks for sharing that, Don.
Some things are just so bad you have to tell everybody, though. Like some of your transgressions.
Yeah, this is true. Hey, what do you say?
Confession's good for the soul.
You know what? This might be the lead-in, Ross. Jeff Rubel saying, I remember reading up on Star Wars before it came out in Starlog. Wow. Yeah. Jeff, would that happen to be this Starlog magazine? Perhaps? This was Starlog issue number 7. So with that, thank you for that perfect lead-in. We really appreciate that. We always like to give Starlog a mention on this show. And back in the day, Starlog magazine was it. And this was issue number 7, which incidentally, if you are a Space 1999 fan, had free blueprints in here. And the Eagle back in the day. But we are talking about Star Wars. So just to show you folks. And then got a little surprise. I thought I had it right to the page, but unfortunately I don't. But anyway, you can find this online. It is available, Starlog issue number 7. But with that, I want to present a small interview. Unfortunately, David Hirsch, as friends of the show know, David has been on countless times, and he was a columnist at Starlog back in the day. So we wanted to have him on just to talk about his recollections of working at Starlog and just how Star Wars impacted or was remembered back in that time. So just going to share, it's about 10-minute video that's recorded, and it was done today. And here is David. David, great to see you. How you doing?
Good. You?
Doing good. And that's hey, good. Happy Star Wars Day.
Yeah. Damn, every time it comes around, I think about how busy I was when it first came out.
I know, May 25th, 1977. I mean, how the heck is that like literally 46 years ago? Where did the time go?
I was actually in college working on the college newspaper, and we got in this little promotional brochure and passes to go see a screening of it. And everyone was like, you go, you write the film reviews for the paper, you go. So I went into the city and I saw it before it opened.
Did you really?
Yeah, at the Lowe's Astor Plaza, which is I think where it also premiered. But we saw it maybe about a week before it opened.
Oh wow! Okay, very very cool.
Yeah, I remember we were sitting there watching the crawl, laughing our asses off, thinking, it's Flash Gordon. And then the picture starts and we shut up for the rest of it. It's like, it's better than we thought it was.
So you were pretty much totally blown away by it, huh?
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It's one of those pictures you walk out and you talk for the next several hours with your friends when you see it. I mean, I brought a friend of mine along with me. And I actually had already hooked up with Starlog probably about a month before that because I was asked to come in and work on the Eagle blueprints with Jeff Mandel.
Well, speaking of which,
that was essentially my first issue. It's funny because my first issue had Star Wars on the cover, and my last issue as associate editor had Star Wars on the cover when we were doing Jedi. So I was there for the whole trilogy. I mean, that was what, I mean, that brought Starlog really to the forefront because those were our biggest selling issues. Whenever we had Star Wars on the cover,
Yep.
Sold. So,
and Starlog #7 was the very first issue.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was an early issue for Starlog magazine, but it was the first issue to promote Star Wars and to have that featured on the cover.
Right.
So I'm sure the response. In fact, interesting enough, my first Starlog wasn't until issue 12, which was with CE3K. But my friend, in fact, Ross's cousin, who is Joe Metz, had the Starlog magazines, and that's how I became aware of it. And when I came across that and he was showing that to me, I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. Plus it's got the Eagle blueprints, which he didn't have. He had lost, and I was like really bummed. This is the one thing, because I was True Space 1999 fan. But David, tell us about the buzz though around Starlog at the time in regards to Star Wars. I mean, there had to be a lot of emotion and a lot of
there was a lot of buzz because being a big summer movie, I think it was, I always remember when Cinefantastique did Logan's Run on the cover, and they always used the tagline, the sci-fi boom starts with a bust, because Logan's Run really led off the whole theater, big studios doing sci-fi for the summer. But because Logan's Run didn't hit as big as Star Wars, I think it's kind of forgotten in that sense that it really was the first big summer movie. But, every time you have a major studio release, it sells magazines. So that's important to put it on the cover. And newsstand sales were our bread and butter back then because, subscriptions. We used to joke that subscriptions were the ones that helped pay the rent, but it was the newsstand sales that made profit, because that's where you saw the biggest increase in your sales from month to month. And as they looked at the sales for every issue, they'd see, well, this cover sold this much, and they began to realize what sold them, what worked for them. And Star Wars was definitely the one that people wanted. They wanted the news, but they also wanted to collect the magazines.
Right.
So you get people buying two or three copies, one to save and one to read. Exactly. I don't think at the time of the first movie, I don't think we saw much of the movie until it actually opened. Because before then, I think they may have shown you some clips if there were any publishers. I don't even know how much Fox pushed the movie. I mean, they did do that beautiful little promotional booklet, which I'm sorry to say I don't have anymore.
You had that?
Yeah. Most of the pictures that were in that booklet were in the first release of the Star Wars novel. They used to have that color photo section.
Yep.
When they put out the novel, I think it had the gold cover. When it had the gold cover.
Yes.
The original release had the early Ralph McQuarrie painting, and I don't remember if it had the photos, but the gold cover version did. And those were the photos from that booklet, like the stormtrooper riding the dewback.
Yep.
Was in that brochure. It was a lot of early photos. It from a sales point, I think that's probably why we thought at the beginning we weren't going to see anything terribly dramatic, because it kind of looked corny in the booklet. The booklet really didn't sell the movie because you only saw set photos and some setup effect shots. Like the Starlog cover was not an actual film clip. It was a setup effect shot for promotional use. Which
totally worked. I mean, when you look at it.
In that sense, yeah, but nobody knew exactly what they were going to see. I mean, right. It's two odd looking spaceships. It doesn't really say what you're in for because nobody really knew how to appreciate the whole look of Star Wars, the whole design aesthetic.
The intent was to create buzz about the movie by seeing that shot, and I guess
right. But again, it was early days. Nobody knew what to expect. So once the picture gained traction, where we knew the picture was going to be a big deal, besides sales of the magazines, we were actually one of the first people to get in on the merchandising Star Wars, and we teamed up with, I can't remember the name of the company now, but they were selling the iron-on transfers for the T-shirts.
Okay, sure.
And we blew them out like crazy. You know, we couldn't keep them in stock. People would order the entire run, and I'd be packing, because I ran the shipping department during the summer when I was working there as an intern, and then they kept me on in the fall. But that was one of our big sales, was selling that merchandising.
And I remember that being in the Starlog magazines,
Yeah.
as far as being, having the opportunity to order those. I never did, but I remember that being listed. So there's another example of merchandise for Star Wars and how popular it was and how it's sold. That's pretty amazing.
And I'm sure those transfers, if you had them and they were in good condition, are probably worth a fortune, because
sure,
a lot of the graphics, I think they were the most popular graphics, especially the triangle logo. I remember that was one of them, and I think we had that X-wing cover one too. But it just showed us just the interest in it.
Yeah, I remember a lot of folks wearing those, wearing T-shirts with those logos. The gold novelization. I remember speaking about my friend Joe from grade school. I remember he used to carry that book around with him everywhere, and just the buzz in regards to that. But but I want to thank you, David, for joining us, and we'll definitely have more of an in-depth discussion at another time. But I just wanted to have you on just for a little bit, just to remember the days back in Starlog, and then also the days of seeing Star Wars when it first premiered. So, hey, there we go. David Hirsch, everybody. Always a pleasure to have him on the show.
Yeah, it's an interesting, look back. But yeah, totally. When it came out, people didn't know what to expect, so the ships wouldn't necessarily have the resonance they have now. As soon as you see a TIE fighter, you know what you're in for,
Right.
But back then, those are really screwy designs for we used to rockets, and now they have X-wings and TIE fighters. What?
Ross, do you remember? I saw you nodding your head, but you remember those iron-ons and everything, right? That they were
absolutely. I had the one with Han Solo and Chewbacca on it. Sure. And you could get them at the mall. They would make them right at the kiosk at the mall. I remember the smell of the plastic or whatever that they put that they melted onto your shirt.
Yeah.
While you wait.
This is back when things were primitive.
Yeah. And they do it on the boardwalk too, along the Jersey Shore. They had shops that would do that. They probably still do.
Oh, I'm sure they do. Real quick, I just want to post a couple of the comments that came through. Claudia Combs. Claudia, welcome. She said, I saw it in Grant's new NM in July. It was an afternoon matinee, and there was maybe 10 people. The theater was all decorated out front and was impressive. Before the movie started, the soundtrack was playing, then the Endless Star Destroyer. I mean, that is just like so iconic in terms. And then that scene that she's referring to.
Right.
Is right here.
There you go. Yeah, you can't forget that one.
No.
Yeah, she was lucky that she was in the well, I can't say you were lucky to see that theater with 10 people, because part of the fun is being with the audience. But, I didn't get in the first time I went to see it. I had to wait a week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because, like David said, we didn't know what to expect. The first time I had heard of Star Wars, I saw the trailer for it at some point. Didn't have the John Williams music. Didn't have the logo that we know. The lettering was totally different, and all I saw was like this gorilla and this scary guy in black armor. I was like 9 years old. It's like, I don't know about this movie, but it had the grappling hook. I like the grappling hook, and I said, oh well. But I had this vision of the whole thing taking place inside, one ship or something. It was, and then the Marvel comics started coming out before the movie hit the theaters. So I got the Marvel comic, the first one anyway, and I'm flipping through it and I'm saying, this does not look appealing to me at all, And then I saw the movie.
Yeah, and that's it. What's interesting though? I did not see that movie on the first, the first few months. It was some time that had gone by. And I remember going with my mom and her friend, and I believe her friend's son and daughter went too. It was the five of us, and we went to the Easton Eric, and that's where we saw the movie, and there was so much buzz about it, but I did not see that when it first came out, and a lot of the reason why I did see it was because of Joe. Joe was constantly talking about it, and everybody I think in school had almost seen it at that point because it was, it was the blockbuster.
Yeah.
But it literally ran for over a year, though.
Yes, this is back in the days. We didn't have the home video, and and we didn't even really have megaplexes like we had later. But yeah, if you didn't see it in the theater, you didn't see it. So and it just kept doing business. So it was in the theater for over a year the first time.
So now I have to put this to Ryan, and Ryan, I appreciate your patience as we're bantering back and forth here and reminiscing and going through all this. So just to let everybody know, in regards to Star Wars, the first movie, when you first saw Episode 4, what was your feelings about it? And be honest too. Seriously.
So I honestly don't remember what my first feelings were when I first watched it. I think Ross would say I've been tainted by the what I envision as the true first trilogy, if we go by a chronological order. And going back to Episode 4, all I remember is I had a different feeling about it. Remember, you were so excited. All I remember is actually your animation and excitement about kind of saying, "Oh, wait, you can't wait until this next part. Just wait till this next part." And now when I see it, I have to keep reminding myself the context of when it came out, that nothing like it had ever been done before, and that it's not a case of really just kind of exaggerated acting. It was groundbreaking for its time. So while I may sit now and I may be committing heresy here, Star Wars heresy, but it just feels like bad acting when I watch it, and it's something that I have to put on my appreciation goggles for the era to be able to truly enjoy A New Hope, or just Star Wars, for as it was called, without A New Hope. That was the title that was added later.
Yeah. It's funny because I could understand coming at it from a more modern, seeing more recent movies and then going back and seeing this old movie, which wasn't really that old, but for you it would be, despite the fact that they kept layering on all these new effects on this old movie. But when I went to see the prequels in the theater, all I was thinking about is like, boy, these are the worst acted movies I've ever seen. Worse than the original. I don't know. We just kind of bonded with the characters and everything, and part of the fun was kind of like some of the secondary actors that really didn't deliver the lines all that well, or what have you. The quirky delivery of the lines and things. Yeah.
Well, and that's just it too. I mean, this was shot when 76, and then it came out in 77. And a lot of the folks that are in this movie, some of them are not, with us anymore, but some of them were not even established or were not household names at that time. And then others, I mean, like Peter Cushing, I mean, was known for, being usually in the Hammer films and what have you. And he had a very, very strong presence. I mean, he did a lot of the horror movies, whether it be the Frankenstein movies, and worked with Christopher Lee, and the list goes on with that. But I mean, he definitely was a very established actor, very strong presence. But when you're thinking of like somebody like Mark Hamill, he really was. I mean, he was pretty much an unknown. I'm not saying he hadn't done anything, but he was not like a household name like he is today.
Totally unknown. Right.
And I mean, Harrison Ford was like 33, 34 years old when he did this movie, right? So I mean, he's literally like 3 or 4 years older than you are now, or 5 years older, in that time, which is mind-boggling. And then Carrie Fisher was only what, 17, 18, 19, Ross? She was in that
she was the best known because of her parents.
Debbie Reynolds and Eddie Fisher.
Yeah. But she herself was not that, well known. But, she had the pedigree anyway.
Right.
Of course, the biggest actor in the movie was Alec Guinness. I mean, you couldn't get bigger than Alec Guinness. He was a respected English actor who'd been in movies for decades and a big presence on stage. and he played Obi-Wan. And I kept thinking about when they introduced things like the midi-chlorians and stuff, that there's no way that Alec Guinness was going to be, part of that. He barely bought into what they did have in the original one.
But you know what though? This is where it goes to with we've said this on the show a lot. It's just that every decade has its tone, and it and this is true even with this. I mean, it holds true, and it definitely has morphed along the way. But it's just the irony though is with the movies that came out later, they were supposed to take place in the past. Yeah. And that's the one thing. And the one thing I can say too, in regards to, and this has been brought up on with different folks, Star Wars is pretty good with that. I mean, when you watch a Star Wars movie, it pretty much looks like a Star Wars movie in that time frame. I mean, it's pretty consistent. And there's other shows that don't follow that to the T, but that's okay. I mean, it is what it is. But Star Wars, with that piece of it, seems to hold that. But I would have to say though, there's something very special, very nostalgic, very close to the heart about these three movies, which are deemed now as episode 4, 5, and 6. And at the time, I mean, as Ryan was just saying just a couple minutes ago, Star Wars now is episode 4, A New Hope. And that's pretty much what his generation, when they think of, right, the original Star Wars movie. But for us, it was just Star Wars. I mean, that was it. I just want to say hi to a few folks that are online that I see dropped in. Dan Rodriguez is out there. Dan, thanks for joining us. He was talking about when he acknowledged the comments we were talking about Raiders before. So Dan, good to see you out there. Yeah. Hope you're doing good. Want to catch up with you soon. I see Deborah's out there. Deborah, welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight. And Randy Lee is also out there. Randy, good to see you out there. Don's got a comment about merchandise, and there was a lot of comments coming through about the different merchandise, about having some of the things that we were talking about earlier. Let me see. Bill is out there. Bill Scarato. Bill, friend from the theater. Welcome, Bill. And let me see here. Martin is also out there. Welcome, Martin. Martin is joining us from New York. Leslie just commented saying James Earl Jones didn't even want his name in the credits for the first movie. He thought it would flop. Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I mean,
yeah, he was already a big name. Yeah,
absolutely. There was a lot of things that were going on in regards to the first film that Lucas was very nervous. Something that I just came across that I found documented today was the fact that he believed. Now he had an association, obviously, with Steven Spielberg, and Lucas felt that Close Encounters was going to be more of the success than Star Wars. And what I found was that supposedly they actually had or Lucas had suggested it to Spielberg about sharing the percentages, so to speak, where Lucas would give 2.5% to Spielberg for Star Wars if Spielberg did the same for Close Encounters, which they wound up both doing, and you see who benefited from that.
Yeah, Spielberg needed the money.
I didn't. Did you know about that, Ross?
Yeah, I've read that anecdote.
Yeah,
a number of times. Yeah.
Wow, I was very surprised by that.
Yeah, I guess the reason that I'm so invested in Star Wars and less invested in Indiana Jones, despite the fact that I love Raiders of the Lost Ark and have enjoyed all the movies, even the bad ones, is that Star Wars was more when you got it right 3 times, basically, to greater or lesser extent, and it was a good place to kind of round off the story, and every little segment became part of one story. Whereas Indiana Jones, they
were independent,
established early on that each one of them is a separate adventure. Yeah. So it's like James Bond. You go see a good James Bond movie, you go see a bad James Bond movie. It doesn't wreck the series.
Well, ask Ryan about James Bond, his thoughts about that. I'd like to
but I'm right there with you, Rye. But you make a bad Star Wars movie, and suddenly it's like it kind of drags the whole story down. but they made it through 3 of them, and then they went back into the prequels. It's just one of those things where, when we were kids, we couldn't get enough Star Wars, and you would get these little glimmers of what went on before, because Lucas would say in an interview, oh yeah, Vader had to wear the armor because they had a fight on this volcano planet, he and Obi-Wan, and he was charred and he had to wear this armor. Sometimes it's just better to have this kind of image in your head and not be shown what happened. You know what I mean? It's like the myth of it is better than having it, made reality.
Well, it's funny you're bringing that point up, because when I was talking to David Hirsch today about that, I remembered, and I think it was Starlog number 14. In fact, it was in one of the comment sections that they talked about what you just mentioned, how Obi-Wan and Vader fought by a volcano, and Vader lost, and that's why he got all scarred. And then I was, and supposedly it was from the outline of George Lucas's Star Wars saga. And, for years it was like, oh, wouldn't that be cool if they went back and they actually did that? And I have to say, I love that end scene from episode number 3. I mean, to me, that scene really holds up. You may not like
Frankenstein scene.
Well, yeah.
No.
Well, I'm talking more about the battle, but not so much that end piece of it. They could have done that better. But the battle itself, when they meet each other, I mean, it was very intense. And let me go to default to Ryan in regards to that. What did you think of that end scene, Ryan?
Oh, Star Wars Episode 3?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was the highlight of the entire trilogy. That entire battle where you're cutting back and forth between Yoda and Palpatine and Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Right.
I mean, at least for number of groups, like multiple groups of friends, you could have them like reenact with the exact moment, like how you are able to reiterate or regurgitate the original Star Trek dialogue. They can regurgitate that entire scene for the whole thing and like hum the music that goes along with it and choreograph it, because they love it so much.
And to be fair, it was done very well. And in fact, Bill's out there right now. You remember we went to see that. It was back in May of 2005, I think. So that was literally 18 years ago, like now that movie came out, which is insane. So
it is funny to get it from or instructive to get it from a different perspective. It's just, going back from the original trilogy to the prequels. I mean, I was so fed up at that point. I honestly think I didn't see that movie in the theater. Really? I just gave up. Yet after Attack of the Clones, because the first one was so bad and the second one was so bad, I just said I'm not even going to go. And I think I watched it on DVD at some point or something. I saw it.
Sue commented. Well, hold that thought for like 30 seconds. Sue commented and said Ryan gives an interesting but different perspective. Seeing episodes 1, 2, and 3 before episodes 4, 5, and 6 really changes the way that Star Wars was intended to be told as a story.
Yeah, that's another thing that I've got a problem with, is that, it's okay for us. At least we saw 4, 5. I'm going to say the number, 4, 5, 6, and then we went back and saw 1. But for somebody who comes to it later, I mean, you grew up with it. But for anybody who comes to it later and they see these movies and they say, "Oh, this is the number 1. I'll watch this one first," and they're moving forward, it kind of wipes out the whole dramatic impact of Empire Strikes Back, because we were like totally blown away when Vader's Luke's father. He's got to be lying, right? This can't be true. And we were like, Luke, no.
No, you know what though, Ross? That's a very valid. That's a great point, because it's doing it from the perspective that you already know that, because obviously you would, because you've seen 4, 5, and 6, and who knows if the intention was ever there for 1, 2, and 3 to be made, you know what I mean, or even 7, 8, and 9, which I really don't want to go at, but it's very interesting in regards to that. Don just commented. He said Milius was also part of the points deal and made out the best.
Yeah, John Milius, Conan the Barbarian.
Oh, okay.
And other things.
And Leslie said, it was really hard to be a female Star Wars fan in the beginning. It was very different from today.
I wonder why that would be.
And
did you get shouted down, or there just weren't enough women, or in
yeah,
movies, or
well, I
you
mean,
know, yeah.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, prior to Star Wars, though, it's suddenly everybody was like a science fiction geek. You know, like prior to Star Wars, like nobody liked, you know, there were your friends like science fiction,
Right.
and you were weird. But then suddenly Star Wars came out, and everybody was like weird. The world was the nerds inherited the earth. You know.
You said agreed, Leslie. It was tough to be a female sci-fi fan. It was all about the fanboys. Being a fangirl wasn't really as much of a thing as it is happily today. And then Leslie commented back saying, "Oops, I had it. Because if you were a girl, it wasn't cool to be interested in sci-fi. It made you weird. Didn't win me any friends."
So was it
I was your friend, Leslie.
Yeah. So was it just the other girls that kind of thought you were strange, or the boys think you were strange too?
Well, she just said, "Now, Ross, if you were a girl and a sci-fi geek, you were considered odd."
Nah. All right. I guess that would be odd if I were a girl.
But you know what, though? And I'm going to comment on this. I'll say, okay, I get what Leslie's saying, but I will also say this, that as a sci-fi fan in the 70s, you were not part of the cool crowd, though. So honestly, you know, in regards to that, I didn't really care. I mean, because
I had nothing to lose.
No, I was not a football player. I was not a jock. I mean, I wasn't any of that stuff. I mean, I wasn't. I mean, and I had my moments, you know, I got, you know, where I got picked on and stuff, but in high school, not so much, because it didn't happen. But when I was in grade school, and yeah, so I get what you're saying, Leslie, but honestly though, too, with the guys though, the guys that were into that were not pretty much in the, you know, the cool center of attention. So I respect what you're saying, and I get what you're saying, but all I'm just saying is, in regards to the, you know, to the boys or the guys at that time, it's not like it is today, and I agree with that piece of it too. I mean, now science fiction is more accepted. I mean, you have, what is it, The Big Bang Theory? I mean, that's an example of where, you know, sci-fi is a different odd. What did she say? She kind of came back and said, "Oh, Roy, our bunch was a small clique. You know that." Yeah, and that's what I agree. We were a small clique, and that's what we were a part of that. I'm in agreement with you, but I'm just saying it wasn't like the guys were anything spectacular. That's my only comment. We were, you know, we weren't the ones, you know, going to the proms or being, you know, the beefcakes, I should say. Oh, yeah, well, there you go. Anyway,
he still thinks that.
Points made.
I don't know what he thinks.
Let me ask you a question, right? In terms of high school, and how was, and I don't think I never asked you that. How was sci-fi, like, you know, revered in school?
I don't think that like, at least for my friend group. I mean, I think maybe I went to a school that was a little bit more of intellectual misfits as it was. But the essence of sci-fi itself wasn't like a gravitational, like,
Right.
Here's the sci-fi clique. It was more pop culture references. But I do remember that, like, in middle school when Star Wars came out, the cool kids thought that Star Wars was cool. Monty Python, that was something that was cool to quote. Star Wars was cool to quote. We got the lightsabers. We were battering each other. I mean, I guess that's where it became more of like the cool kids, or the roughing around sporty kids were just boys will be boys as they hit each other with the lightsabers, and until somebody takes it too far, gets hit in the face, etc. But
yeah,
it was not it wasn't like a sty or a stigma to like Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think by then it had kind of changed. At least in my experience, it was like Rye's experience. It was, you know, like pop culture was cool. But, you know, by the time Rye came along, you know, these things were rare. You know, in the 70s still, you know, we had Logan's Run, and we had, you know, before that we had 2001, and, you know, maybe a few others that, you know, we went to see. But, you know, then suddenly they started to ramp up these sci-fi and fantasy movies, and they became mainstream. I mean, everybody went to see the summer movies.
Well, and again, that a lot of that has to do with Star Wars, because
yeah, of course,
they put it on. When Leslie's saying, but we persevered. I I had them all on Laserdisc. How many times did we watch all that stuff at my house? Countless times. And I remember your dad taking us around, and he would drive us around in his van, and it was just like a really, really cool experience. And you're right, we did persevere. We got through it, Leslie. The Force was with us. But yeah, now, we've really talked about Star Wars, but when you think about it, though, Return of the Jedi, 6 years later, the same date today. I mean, wow, that's as far as coming out and being released. So Jedi was released literally 40 years ago today. I mean, that itself is crazy.
It's really crazy because it seems like it was not that long ago.
Yeah, I know.
To me, anyway. But I don't know. I guess a lot of stuff happened between then and now. But,
yeah, probably. It's only 40 years, Ross, right? Ian is commenting.
Half of it in carbonite. Yeah.
Sci-fi is a bit like heavy metal music. What was odd and strange when I was a kid is now just part of the culture. Yeah. Well, there you go. It's true. And Martin is commenting, saying it was Trek 1999, the Tomorrow People, and Star Wars for me. Yeah. And then Claudia said, I wore my Moonbase Alpha patches on my jacket and later my Battlestar Galactica jacket from Starlock to school and got harassed, but I gotta be me. Yeah.
Not like when I was wearing my flying leatherneck cap. Nobody ever said anything to me.
Well, I know Joe wore his fedora all over the place. Did you wear yours to school?
Yeah, I wore the fedora a lot. Yeah. And it was a real one. It wasn't like Indiana Jones. It was like a genuine one from my grandfather. Yeah.
Right.
So
Martin's commenting. He's saying when Star Wars was released, I had just graduated from school at 16. Wow, that's crazy.
So what was your favorite the Star Wars movies, Rye? Was it one of the prequels, or did you have a fondness for like any of the last three or?
Yeah, so it's interesting you bring it up. So prior to episode 3 coming out, episode 6 was always my favorite.
6. So that's
Return
Jedi.
of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi was always my favorite.
All right.
Oddly enough, it was not. You'll be happy to hear it had nothing to do with our furry heroic heroes, the unsung heroes, the Ewoks. It was more. I love the whole everything coming to a climax, the lightsaber battle, the plot twists, the uncoverings of what's happened, like about the Leia and Luke, but Han Solo doesn't necessarily. Everything's kind of coming together. It did fall a little bit flat, but I was a sap for the Force Ghosts at the end. It didn't really make sense at all, but it resonated as a kid for me.
Yeah. Well, it's very Walt Disney kind of to have that kind of ending, and it was fine. Everybody's even the Force Ghosts were in on the party.
Yeah.
The whole final lightsaber battle and Jabba was a great new addition because at that point everybody heard about Jabba and they knew there was a cut scene from Star Wars, from A New Hope, as you like to call it, as your generation likes to call it. But we never got to see Jabba except perhaps in the drawing in a comic book, and he looked nothing like what he turned out to be.
Well, what's interesting, Ross? Deleted scenes were actually released of that, and they show. I mean, it's obviously it was just an actor that was made up and everything. But what they did was when they actually showed that scene, I think it was on the Blu-rays, they superimposed with the addition of Jabba from from Return to the Jedi over that, and then he circles around, which is kind of interesting.
But it was such a gas that they came up with that puppet, where they had so many people working Jabba, and he was just such a great character.
He was,
and I thought, okay, well, it's off to a good. Despite too many guys in rubber suits that just didn't look real, and the Rancor, which was not the best kind of go motion effect that they've ever done. It was kind of self-contained and that. Empire has kind of a lead-in story too, because Luke gets caught lost on the ice, with the Wampa and all that, and they have to go out and find Luke. And then the Empire, it kind of just leads into the rest of the story. They get off Hoth and the story continues, but it's kind of like more, organic. With the Jedi, it seems like, okay, we're going to start out, they're going to rescue Han, but then that's like at the end of a story. That could have been the end of that could have been a mini movie, and they could have taken that out of there, and the rest of the movie would have made sense. Once they blew up Jabba's barge,
Yeah.
it's like,
I felt when after Leia like crashes her speeder, and then she's with the Ewoks. It's almost it goes a little flat there. It's almost it has to your point, Ross. It could have been this whole story, where they rescue him, they get him, and then it's like it almost doesn't know where to go. I mean, they're trying to like it just kind of falls short a little bit.
To me, it felt like they repeated themselves a lot in Jedi, because instead of having the Wookiees, and I found out later it was supposed to be a Wookiee planet. It was supposed to be whatever with a bunch of Ks, but they ended up showing it in the trilogy, then the original one, or not the original one, the prequels. Then they wind up going to the Wookiee planet in one of them.
Yes, the third one, I believe,
and of course on the Star Wars Holiday Special. Our first glimpse of the Wookiee planet. But the Ewoks were, which were originally supposed to be Wookiees. The Ewoks were like tiny Wookiees. You had the speeder bikes, which were just rehashes of like the land speeder. You had another Death Star, and it was kind of like, okay, we've kind of seen a lot of this stuff.
I was just going to say, Ross, happy Thanksgiving to you.
Yeah, Life Day, my friend.
Life Day. Yeah. Dan is saying, I remember seeing it at the Boyd in Bethlehem, trekking across town with my brother and 4 cousins. We were all in elementary school.
That was my favorite theater in the Lehigh Valley, the Boyd.
Was it?
Yeah. I'm sorry, they just tore it down not too long ago. Yeah.
Martin is asking now, Rye, which Force Ghost Anakin is your favorite? Yeah, that's.
Let's hear it, Rye.
I like the original Force Ghost Anakin. I don't like that they brought back Christian Haydenson.
And you know what my argument would be for them bringing back Christian Haydenson? And ironically enough, he was also in Calgary. He was at the expo. Didn't see him, but supposedly he was very well received up there. My whole thing is, why if he comes back as a youth, then why didn't Obi-Wan come back as a youth? Yeah. Right? I mean, obviously, they could have done that. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you
don't want to edit Alec Guinness out of your movie.
No, and they shouldn't have edited, what is it, Sebastian Shaw? Was that his name? Yeah, they shouldn't have edited him either. The Hague is in the house. John, welcome. John is saying a little late, but hello. Hey, John, thanks for joining us. And he is commenting and saying Hayden Christensen, not Christian Haydenson.
Sebastian Shaw was another stage actor, and supposedly, he just came in for like a day or something to have that done. I know it was a very short amount of time, and he had no idea that would
probably like 10 hours of makeup, being put on.
He had no clue that it was going to have that kind of resonance, and that people would send action figures to him and stuff to sign.
Paul commented, I did like the climatic action taking place on 3 different fronts in Jedi.
Yeah,
that was good.
Hey, and Craig is worm kind of in the prequel trilogy. Yeah,
Craig is joining us, friend from the theater. Hey, Craig, welcome. He's saying, "Hey, you guys, love seeing this opening weekend. The scale of the 2 ships was so cool. Absolutely, we were just talking about that earlier. Oh, and then this is just for to get a chuckle. Dan is saying, "Can't wait for the 60th anniversary of 3 Stooges in Orbit."
Oh, we should do that.
Don't give him any ideas, Dan.
But Paul mentioned the battle on 3 fronts. I have to say, again, Rye, you have to put yourself in our shoes. As we're there, it is. It's a trap. As we're moving forward in time. I mean, we went from Star Wars to suddenly Empire with that asteroid field sequence to Jedi, where it's a trap. We're suddenly you've so many TIE fighters in one shot. You're like, oh my god, look at that! We've never seen anything like that. Yeah.
Paul said B. Arthur was a spooky. Oh my god, I forgot she was in that. Oh, God. Oh, that was so bad. I loathe that. That movie is just awful. Yeah. Right. There was so much hoopla about that coming out, and it was funny because we were at Grandma and Pop-Up. We went to, and I was 12. It was November 78 that came out, and we went to Florida to see great Nana and great Pop-Up's mom and dad. And I got sick, but I remember not from watching this, but I was sick down there. I remember that specifically watching that. And you know what else was on, Ross? Galactica, and it was the Audrey Landers episode of
Which
the
one
young
was that?
the Young Warriors. I mean,
Oh, the Young
I had a
Warriors.
crush on Audrey Landers. What can I say? But
Yeah.
it was that episode when Starbuck crashes on the planet, and then
Again.
the young lords. Yeah, exactly. But anyway.
I haven't seen any of those shows, I don't think, in 40 years. You know, the Galactic episodes. I remember them, though. Yeah.
Leslie, stop talking about the holiday special. It's like Beetlejuice. Say it 3 times, it'll show up.
Not if George Lucas has anything to say about it.
Martin is a wit. I didn't get to say Martin was in Calgary, Ross. We got to
really? Okay.
Yeah, and he is an amazing photographer. So Martin, kudos to you. It was great seeing you, and your photography is amazing. Star Wars special where everyone knows your name. Sounds like Cheers to me. John is saying at the time we all loved it. It's only our older selves that loathe it. No, I hated the Star Wars special, life special, whatever, Thanksgiving special, whatever the heck you want to call it back in the day, John. I'm sorry. I am not even going to pretend and say as a 12-year-old I liked it. I didn't.
Yeah, I was a little embarrassed by it. Although I did like the little Boba Fett cartoon we got. The first time we've seen Boba Fett was in that cartoon.
Yeah.
In the special.
Deborah's paying you a compliment, Ryan.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you.
But yeah. Oh my God.
You're making us
Russell? We'll have to cover that for the 45th anniversary. We'll have to revisit. We'll have to revisit whatchamacallit, Star Wars holiday special.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll have plenty of fresh insights the next time we talk about it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Is November 17th on a Friday?
What was that?
Is November 17th on a Friday?
It probably is with our luck.
What did Paul just say? I missed it.
I could barely sit through it. It kept. What did he say? I'm sorry. I could barely sit through it except the animated.
Yeah. Not even when Jefferson Starship shows up?
No, really?
You remember when the Jefferson Starship shows up?
I blocked it out, Ross. And November 17th is on a Friday, right?
It's destiny. It is your destiny.
Yeah, Boba Fett, absolutely. This is something that was brought up before, and I forget. I think maybe Paul made the comment. Boba Fett was a wasted character. There was this entire build-up to Boba Fett. I mean, they devoted an action figure to Boba Fett, and you had to have I think you had to have a certain amount of coupons, and then when you got him, he had that launcher, and then you remember they repurposed it because of it was
because they're afraid somebody would swallow it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they had it so it wouldn't launch anymore. And I mean, it was a big deal about Boba Fett. And then he, we're all excited to see Boba Fett. And then he shows up and dies immediately. It was like such a middle finger to the fans. Where's Boba Fett? And that was Harrison Ford. He probably just said that on the set. It's like, look, I'm a big star now. I'm Indiana Jones. This is how it's got to be done. Like everybody loved it when I shot the Arab swordsman. This is how me knock Boba Fett into the Sarlacc pit. They'll love it. We hate you, Harrison.
Snap Boba Fett in half like a number 2 pencil. Yeah, John's right. The greatest character that never really was. I know they had this entire build-up after they get him, at the end of Empire, and he takes him away, and then you're wondering what's going to happen 3 years later when they do Jedi, and then Ross just said that he bites the dust in like the first 40 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, and again, we knew about the Mandalorians from Lucas always talking about the backstory on Star Wars and interviews and stuff. Oh yeah, there are all these clones. There were Clone Wars
Clone
and this and that and
Wars.
the other thing. Yeah, yeah. It's like again, it's like it was so cool for him to be talking about this stuff, and then you actually saw it. He said, "Oh man, I wish it had just stayed legend." Yeah.
You wouldn't have Jar Jar Binks then, Ross.
That I still think Jar Jar Binks is the Sith Lord.
Misa. Yeah.
Yusa, Yusa.
Yeah. They oh man, you just wiped my memory clean with that.
that was a secret code, Ross, for erase.
Yeah. Yeah.
that was Jar Jar Binks' secret weapon.
Had my memory wiped. Yeah.
The true Jedi mind trick.
It's Rise Jedi mind. Yeah. At least the Sarlacc was good for a burp gag. Yeah. That's when Star Wars. Yeah, you knew you were. Yeah. Hit a new low there. Yeah, at least nobody got hit in the groin. Or did they?
Maybe they did. What did John? The Marvel comic back in the day delved into the Mandalorians also. Oh wow.
Yeah. And now I've never seen any of these streaming things. I've only seen the movies. So but apparently, people are enjoyed I don't even know, is it still on, the Boba Fett show, the Mandalorian? It's still going on.
Yeah. They're all accessible. Yeah.
So people seem to enjoy it.
Well, the Mandalorian, I think, they just completed the 3rd season, right? Am I right about that? Yeah.
I definitely recommend them. And if you decide that you're a purist, you're anti all the streaming aspects, if there's any single one of them that I would watch the Obi-Wan miniseries. I feel like it did good justice for the characters across both aspects of the front and the back end, and I think that you would appreciate it.
Well, I'm just not going to give Disney my money, so I'm not subscribing to their Disney Plus. If they put it on another platform where I can watch it, I'll rent it on there. But I'm not going to pay for Disney Plus.
You know what we're going to do, Rye? We'll have to do a trade off here. We'll make Ross. We'll have to have Ross, and you can come down and watch it, Ross, because I have it. You can come down and watch it, but Rye has to watch at least one James Bond movie.
How's that a deal for Rye? I get to see both of that.
Where's the benefit for me?
He's recommending you to watch whatchamacallit, Obi-Wan.
But Ross has already told me that he's on the same page with me about James Bond. So
yeah,
this is two pluses and a negative.
Yeah, but the difference is Ross has seen James Bond. You haven't.
It's not making it more attractive
on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen them and enjoyed some of them, but I'm not a fan. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't go out of my way.
Martin commented. He said, "Yoda, let's hide Luke on the planet of his father's birth." But not only that, with his own relatives.
Yeah. It just got so ridiculous and more incestuous with every movie. Already, they blew our minds with Vader as Luke's father, in Empire. Then, all right, Leia is Luke's sister. It is like, all right, it didn't land as hard. It didn't land as gracefully, maybe, as the Vader thing. It's like, okay, but we'll that's fine. But then when you go back to the prequels and suddenly, everybody's related to everybody. And Vader constructed C-3PO. It's like, how many people are there in the galaxy? And the 6 people all know each other, for generations.
Jeff Rubel just commented, there's a guy who took the Obi-Wan series and condensed it in a 2-hour movie. It's really good. I thought the series was a bit too drawn out. That is pretty interesting, Jeff. I would be curious to watch that. That would be very kind of cool to watch. Ryan Martin saying you should try to give Moonraker a shot, because that's the sci-fi James Bond movie.
Yeah, that's about the lightest one out there, I think.
Yeah. And The Hague is saying James Bond should have ended with Dalton. I very much like the Dalton movies. I'm not going to agree with your comment, John, but I will agree that Dalton was really good. I thought he was.
We're starting to repeat all of our all of our stories.
but,
We get
not
the
everybody's
Dalton.
heard, but not everybody's heard them, Ross. That is
All
that, that is the key.
That's true.
You just said that there's a whole galaxy out there, Ross. Not just
It's
6.
very incestuous on Roy's tie dye. When I was a Sith Lord, I created you, Roy.
And I'm your revenge.
Am I just a clone that hasn't evolved yet?
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh boy, it's all good. Well, I'm going to share a couple of slides. So here's some iconic moments. And that's the one thing too about Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi. I mean, there's all good moments that take place and all scenes that really just capture everything.
Mm. And every one of these shots you're showing was on like the original Star Wars calendar. I mean, every one of these shots is so seared into my psyche. Yeah. Mm.
And then when we go to Empire.
Yoda.
And then Jedi.
There you go. For you, Rye.
For you, Rye.
Oh, I have to ask you, Rye. Which, all right, we already did the Force Ghost thing. Which celebration do you prefer there? Because I know they totally redid the end of Return of the Jedi with the Ewok celebration, where it suddenly like engulfed the galaxy.
I like the original. I think that in that respect, I'm a purist for keep it simple.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought so too.
I have taught you well, young Padawan.
I thought the X-wings dropping the fireworks or whatever was enough. You know, you didn't need to. And you know what? That was again when the prequels was the special editions came out in the movies is what it was before the prequels came out. And I watched them just thinking that it was like be interesting as one-offs to see what they did with it, not realizing they would supplant all the original cuts of the film. But that's the only one I didn't see in the theater. Again, is the special edition. I didn't see the Return of the Jedi, so I had to see that on home video. It was a long while before I could bring myself to watch it because I hated the prequels or hated everything they've done. And I hated the prequels.
I keep saying, Ross, that what's going to happen is, and I'm knocking on wood. I've been saying this about Space 1999 with the 50th anniversary, that I'm really hoping that in the vaults of ITV, this lost footage that I know is out there comes to be, and we'll have it, to relish in, because I know you can't wait to get your hands on it yourself. But putting that aside, I was looking for the reaction for Star Wars. I keep hoping that in 2027, when Star Wars is officially 50 years old, I am hoping that they will do a release where they show all of the material from Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi, where it is untouched, Blu-ray or 4K, whatever, and it's as it was when it was originally released without any modifications. And if they do it, everybody's going to buy it, and the sales will go through the roof. So it would be a win-win for Disney to do that, if it still exists, which I think it does. Thoughts?
In the Disney Vault.
I would love if they did that, of course. But yeah, I wonder if it was part of the deal when Lucas sold it to them that they can't do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what happened to that guy. He was a hero to me once.
He signed the dotted line for a lot of zeros.
For $1 billion.
Wasn't it like 3.5 billion when he sold it to Disney?
It was some ridiculous amount.
So yeah, it was some ridiculous amount.
God, I can't even think of zeros.
Your density
that long. I mean, it just makes my head want to explode, like yours did in Joe's movie. Sue commented to Ross, says Marty's father in Back to the Future said, "I am your destiny." Lots of laughs.
Density. I am your density. Yeah.
Martin is asking, did anyone get the book that they sold at the Star Wars first showing? That's what David Hirsch was talking about. You had that, Ross?
Yeah, I still have it. Yeah, it's not in great shape, but I have it. Yeah,
very cool.
It was in the bottom of a closet in my parents' house for a long time, so it's not looking great, but I still have it.
You still have it.
Yeah.
Or as Marty said to his father to scare him, "I am Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan." Lots of laughs. Yeah, I remember that. It's funny. And John is saying original beginning without A New Hope. Yep, right. I agree.
Didn't even say episode 4 the first time. They added that like a year later or so.
Ian is saying they'll re-release it after Lucas dies. I don't want to see him die though. Paul saying they had stopped selling those by the time I saw it. I've seen them since now. Yeah. And Don is saying I heard 4 billion. Wow, 4 billion. Yeah. Jeez. Well, if you think about it, when they released episode 7, I think 7 made $1 billion. And that was, and I think it was in, if I remember reading correctly, it was in Harrison Ford's contract. If it hit $1 billion, then he got like an extra kickback or an extra bonus.
He gets all of it. Yeah, I'll be in your movie.
$1 billion.
I got two stipulations. You kill me off, and I get $500 million.
Wow, man, that's amazing.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. Everybody got all inflated on the 7th. The first of the Disney trilogy. Everybody gets all excited. Oh, yeah. And everybody went in, they held their breath because they were so used to the bad prequels. Sorry, Rye. And you got through it. And it's like, oh, okay. All right. You know, that wasn't terrible. That wasn't terrible. And then it kind of just all kind of wears off. It was kind of like seeing that. I kind of felt like that with Jurassic Park. It was like a thrill ride when I was in the theater, and I left the theater and I said, where was it? This was not Jaws. Yeah.
They should have, you know what they should have done, and I want Rod to jump in on it, and Ross, you too. I'm not sure if you saw it or not. I think you did, but Rogue One was a home run. I thought. Did you see that, Ross?
Did I see it? Yes, I did. Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. It was kind of like a heist movie or like Seven Samurai or something. You build the team. You build the team of all the characters in need of redemption.
Yeah.
Now, Ryan, you enjoyed it, right?
I did. I thought it was outside of. I think I liked it better than episode 6 too. I think that it was the best original, of the original trilogy, because it's wedged in there. I'm letting it usurp and take over like a parasite,
like a 3.5,
like a Minoc.
A Minoc, yeah.
It was amazing. And just because Ross brought up that I'm getting the impression he enjoyed episode 7. The prequels were by far world-class, like Oscar nominations compared to that. Whatever.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I don't like the Disney trilogy. It's like one of those things where you're holding the handrest, like, oh my god. Is this gonna? Because I remember seeing Phantom Menace, and I just thought, oh, it's got to get better than this. And to be fair, they had the ultimate lightsaber battle in that one.
They did.
If the whole movie had been the lightsaber battle, I'd say that would be one of my favorites. But that just goes to show how I felt about the rest of the movie, though, because I hated it. But anyway. Yeah, I don't like any of the Disney movies, but the second one, Last Jedi, is my most hated Star Wars movie of all time. It's just terrible. It's just like, what else can we make up? They were just like, it was like they were sitting in a room saying, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and none of it fits together, So where are we?
I don't know what they ate that day.
That's a problem with not having like one, at least no matter what Lucas did, he had a vision of where he was going with it. It wasn't just like bouncing around. But that's what killed Solo. Because they came out, Disney started getting greedy then. It's like, oh yeah, we can get another Star Wars movie in here in 6 months or whatever. And everybody's like, not after Last Jedi. I'm never going again.
And Solo was probably better than those movies.
Absolutely. I mean, I thought so.
That's the shame. Solo suffered from that. Solo was not a terrible movie.
Yeah, the one-offs were better than the trilogies. The other trilogy. What's it say? Splinter in the Mind's Eye, right?
Yeah. Yep. Good one, Dan.
I read that. Yeah.
Yep.
That was the first kind of Star Wars original novel.
Right.
and it was before The Empire Strikes Back came out, and it was actually kind of, I didn't realize that it had any validity. I guess when we read it at the time, we thought it might be the sequel.
We
but
thought
I guess,
it was going to be the next Star Wars movie.
Yeah. If Star Wars didn't hit big, they're going to go low budget, kind of with the Splinter of the Mind's Eye, because it only had three. It had Luke, Leia, and Vader in it.
But fortunately, it was The Empire Strikes Back, but there was a lot of buzz around that movie. Now, did Alan Dean Foster write that?
Yeah. He wrote the original novel too, I think, even though George Lucas's name is on it. Not the original story. Lucas came up with the whole story, but the novelization that they came up with after the movie, script.
Sue said, in her opinion, Rogue One was a home run. Don is saying Luke and Leia mud wrestling was uncomfortable.
in their hoodies. Yeah.
In their hoodies. John saying, waited 40 years for Han Solo to return, and then they kill him off and gave me a bunch of characters that I hate beyond belief.
None of the characters connected with me in the Disney thing there. I mean, I like the idea of Rey. I liked Rey, but the other two, the guys, it's like they didn't really make any impact on me at all. Yeah.
No, she was a really good character too. Ian said that was definitely the problem with 7 through 9, a lack of central vision or story. And let's see.
I thought Solo was entertaining too, but it got a lot of grief.
Oh, it got a lot. I actually saw that on a flight back. I think I can't remember from where, but I think it was during work, and I watched it and I was like, you know what, this is not that bad. Which is, when you go into a movie expecting it not to be so good, sometimes it actually turns out to be really, really good. It's when you have the hype that they're saying, oh, this is the thing, the next best thing, the peanut butter, and then when you see it, you just want to just regurgitate because it's so.
Well, at least Solo felt like a Star Wars movie. I didn't feel like the Disney movies really felt like Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
But the thing with that, it kind of suffered from that kind of thing where you have to explain everything about the origin of a character in one story.
Right.
kind of like the beginning of the third Indiana Jones movie, with Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which is very tongue-in-cheek, so you can buy the fact that, like, okay, this is where he gets his hat, this is where he gets his bullwhip, this is how he got his scar, this is why he hates snakes. They all in one 10-minute sequence. And Solo was kind of like that in a 2-hour movie. It's like, well, why does he do this? How do you meet Chewbacca? Why is his name Solo? Oh, I learned it all in this movie. In this one adventure.
Jeff is commenting. He's saying, Solo was good, but not great. I hate to say it, but it was because of Alden Ehrenreich. He just wasn't a convincing younger Han. I didn't have a problem with him. I thought he.
No, I didn't have a. Yeah, I didn't go in expecting a lot, I guess. And the guy who played Lando, I liked very much too. I'm sorry, I don't know the actor's name, but I just had a good time with it. It was a lark,
Yeah. Sue said they explained Indiana Jones' origins in a great way in the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. Yeah, I never watched those. I remember when they were on and everything, and they were running, but I just never got into that.
Yeah, I watched them for a little bit, but they were so unlike the movies that they kind of didn't grab me. It was interesting because they took kind of a historical approach to it, right. Because he would interact with historic characters like Lawrence of Arabia or Teddy Roosevelt, or he was always meeting people from whatever time period, because they had two actors play him. They had a kid, and then they had a kind of a teenage Indy.
Yeah, and then it did very well, though. It was on for a couple seasons, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, and then they had some guy play the 90-year-old Indy with an eye patch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he would always kind of start the thing, and they go into a flashback. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't follow it. I remember it being on, but I really didn't.
It wasn't that. I didn't think it was that great, but some people like it.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford was in one of them. They brought him back for one. Yeah.
Martin said they are now on Disney for the Young Indiana. Oh, there you go. Well, you know what? We're going to start to wind down. Go to the shout outs real quickly. But folks, if you have any last minute comments you want to post out, and then I just want to come back to Ryan and Ross, and then we're just going to do a quick recap. But I'm going to go into the shout outs real quick. So the shout out section is bringing your creative awareness through our shout outs. That's our new tagline. Anyway, Mike and Mary Beth, they are on Sci-Fi Distilled. They are on Wednesdays, and they will be back next week. They just were on last night, and actually they were talking about Star Wars as well, Star Wars Eve, and they had some nice discussion in regards to that. They will be back next Wednesday at May 31st. I can't believe we're coming to the end of the month already. It's crazy. They will be back at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, not standard. And they have not decided on what show they are going to be doing yet. So stay tuned for Mike and Mary Beth on Sci-Fi Distilled. And that
maybe they're waiting to see what you're going to do next.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't even know what we're going to do next. So
I don't even know what that means.
We got to figure what we're going to do. Now, I want to give a shout out to Countrygate Players. Now, Countrygate is back, folks, and they're going to be doing their second show for the season, which is going to be Snoopy. Now, if you are in the Belvedere Harmony area of New Jersey, definitely check them out. The dates are, it's going to be over 2 weekends. It's going to be July 29th through August 6th. Now, for information about the show's times, you can go to Countrygate's website. You can do it two ways. You can go to the Facebook page, or you can go to the website, which is www.countrygate.org, or you can go to Bill Scarato. Bill's out there tonight. Go to www.billscarato.com for information. And we're very happy to have Countrygate back in play. And it was a long time with everything going through with COVID. So definitely check them out. Captain Phil's Planet, WUSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. Captain's schedule is on alternating Thursdays from 3 to 5 p.m. And he's also on Friday nights, 9 to 11:30 p.m. Captain Phil has actually extended an invitation, and I will be joining him next week, along with, actually, I think Mike and Mary Beth are going to be a part of that. They're going to be out there, and I think Phil's going to have a lot of other people joining as well. And tune in as we are going to be having a discussion about the third season of Picard. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of comments going back and forth, a lot of interesting points of view. So we will be sharing that, and that'll be on Captain Phil's show, and that's going to be next Friday. Ross and I will have a show too, so I might be joining a little late with Captain Phil, but just want to give him the plug anyway. Also want to give a shout out to the ladies, and this is going to be for Snow and Martha. They launched their business, an online business, about a year ago, and it's doing very well, and it is Studio One Thrift. And they are the owners for this website, and you can go to their website, which is studioonethrift.net, and they offer quality, stylish, affordable clothing for men and women. They also have styling tips and information updates for you. So definitely register on their website, check them out, and you can order online, and can order from anywhere. And with all the conventions coming up, we were talking about Calgary. We were talking about Trek Long Island. Well, there's the next one that's coming up is going to be in June, and it is Wonderfest, and it's taking place, the 10th and the 11th, which is a Saturday and Sunday. Our very own Nick Tate from Space 1999 is going to be there. He was actually at the event that was taking place in Calgary. It was great to see him and Yasko. And also, big celebration for the 40th anniversary of Return to the Jedi, which we were just talking about tonight. So that's going to be celebrated there as well. You can go to the website for hotel information and convention information, which is www.wonderfest.com. My friends Todd Morton and Gordon Moriguchi are going to be there. Also, Jeffrey Morris, who was up in Calgary shooting footage for the Space 1999 documentary, The Eagle Has Landed, is also going to be attending this event as well. So it's going to be pretty cool. So if you can make it, definitely check it out. Also have a lot of Trek fans that are going to be there too. Sean Tabor, who's been on the show, is also going to be there giving some presentations. So shout out to Wonderfest. And Ross, if you can let everybody know what's going on and what you have going on in regards to your schedule.
All right. Well, I need another 90 minutes to fill everybody in on this. I love the fact that this is the only shirt that I own, by the way.
Yeah, you probably have like 10 of them in your closet, right?
Well, I've got at least 2.
Okay. Or I was going to say at least 7, one for each day of the week.
Yeah. Well, I don't wear anything but blue, I think. Anyway, all right. So after 28 years at WWFM, the Classical Network, I am no longer employed with them. So All I got was this lousy T-shirt. But anyway, so Picture Perfect and The Lost Chord are no longer on WWFM. They are in syndication, so the shows are still airing on the station that they are most easily caught on by people on the East Coast or anywhere for that matter. Is probably KWAX. Think quacks like a duck. KWAX. It's the radio station of the University of Oregon. So it's Pacific time out there. But on the East Coast, Picture Perfect is now heard Friday evenings at 8 o'clock. The Lost Chord is heard Saturday night at 7 o'clock. Saturday evening at 7 o'clock. So you can, if you're on the West Coast, like Linda is, it's 3 hours earlier out there. So, whatever that is, like, 4 and 5 or whatever. So anyway, if you want to learn more about it and I do the math all the time on the translation of the time on my Facebook page at Classic Ross Amico. I'm happy to talk about it, but it's just, it's a lot to get into in the short amount of time we have right now. However, I am in the process now. I have all of my audio files for the shows, for the past shows, and I have equipment now to record and distribute from home. So I'll get that out there. And now that the shows are in my possession, one thing that the station did not do because they weren't really getting revenue from them was they didn't really push themselves to distribute them. So I'm not even sure how many stations actually have the shows right now. I've traced it to 3 stations that have them. There's one in New York. There's the one in Oregon, and there's one down south someplace. I think North Carolina. But the one here in New York, which is our time zone, they air them at 6 and 7 in the morning in the middle of the week. So that's why I'm not recommending them. But anyway, so that's just go to Classic Ross Amico. You can scroll through my page and you can probably glean more. And I'll post about tomorrow's Picture Perfect tomorrow morning.
So Ross, real quick on the recap. So on on Fridays, what time is it?
Yeah, Picture Perfect is on Fridays now. And in the Eastern time zone, it's 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And it's a KWAX. Quacks. KWAX. Because their school team is the Ducks.
Okay.
That's how you'll remember it. It's a great classical music station, though. It's much better than the one I got kicked off of. Not Once Upon a Time. It was a great station. But over the years, it's gone into kind of a sharp decline, unfortunately.
Well, all I'm going to say about that, Ross, they're a loss.
I agree. And apparently we're not alone. There seems to be a lot of blowback about it, but I don't think they're going to ask me back.
No, I mean, your knowledge and your passion for music is immense, and it's incredible. So no, they're a total loss. So
since the pandemic, they only have a few people running the place over there, and I think they get a little in their own heads, But I'm not going to go too much into it.
Okay, but anyway,
on a Zoom.
Yeah, we will update the slide so it has more information, and we will present that, as in the next episode. So we'll have a little bit more clarity. But I just wanted to. I'm glad you can get that information out to our viewers out there.
Well, thanks, Roy.
Thanks for sharing that. Absolutely. And with that said, Ross and I will be back next week. Now, we're going to be back, folks, on Friday, June 2nd, but it's not going to be at 7 p.m. It will be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And we're going to be doing episode 193. We don't know what that is yet, but I can say Ross will officially be with the show on his what will be the 3-year anniversary. So it's coming up. The first episode that he did was actually Star Crash. And that was the movie that we discussed with Carolyn Monroe and Stella Star. So that was literally 3 years ago. So very excited about that. And yeah, we just have to figure out what we're doing.
So I get to pick one now, right? Is that what you're saying?
You get to pick one within reason.
I'm going to go back because I would have done it before now. I just have too much to do and too much on my mind.
I know.
But I'll go through because I'm always recommending. You're always shooting stuff down. I'll have to pick one of those and say, this is the one I want to do.
That's all good. Oh, and as Martin would say, stay on target. And he said, thanks for a good show, guys. Almost stayed on target. Thanks, Martin, and thanks, Bill, too. Much appreciated. And Yeah, there we go. Santa Claus versus.
Santa Claus versus the devil. We already did it.
We already did it.
Well, don't go yet. Don't go. We want to hear what Rye has to say since we talked the whole episode.
No, we're
sorry, Rye. You can say what you want. They all tuned out already. You know?
No, they're out there.
I'll leave it on a note with Grogu, our Baby Yoda Lego. It's been killing out in the background. And in case you're thinking that it's just the big Yoda, there's also a little mini figurine. It's really tiny.
Mini Yoda.
Mini Yoda.
Mini. On that note, Martin's saying we should do the Devil's Reign.
We could do the Devil's Reign.
God.
I'm up for it. We almost did that once.
Yeah, we did.
But then we swapped it out for Mad Monster Party. We should have done the Devil's Reign.
Devil's Reign. No, Ryan, you did a great job building that Yoda, by the way.
His ears move.
Ears move.
There you go.
His
How
head
cool.
moves too.
Jeff Rubel saying the Omega Man again.
We're big on the visual aids, Rye, so thanks for bringing that.
Yeah, it's.
May the 20th be with you.
And our new mascot, Ty, he says thank you. Thank you again. To
I got
Christina
nothing. Sorry.
No, that's all good. But anyway, happy Star Wars Day to everybody. I know we always like to close out this way, but no. Happy Star Wars Day, because May 25th really feels like the official Star Wars Day. It always has been. I mean, I'm not taking away from May, from May 4th, but today is. So
I mean, I like a good pun as much as the next guy, but
yeah,
seriously.
Exactly. Rye, thanks for joining us, and this was really cool. And Rye is going to actually be back to join me on Father's Day. We are going to figure out what we're going to do, and then
Devil's Reign.
No, not the Devil's Reign. What we are planning on doing, I don't know if I don't know if it's going to be on Father's Day because of scheduling, but if not for Father's Day, but probably in July, we're going to do a special show, and it's going to pretty sure it's going to happen, but it'll be with my dad, his pop, and myself and Ryan. We're gonna steer away from science fiction, but we are going to talk about a movie that the three of us love, which is really cool and are in sync with. And it's definitely not sci-fi, and it's a comedy. And I'm gonna just give this hint, a teaser. It is from 1963. It is celebrating its 60th anniversary this year.
I know what it is.
And it has an all-star cast. It is just an amazing, funny movie. So once we figure out the date and when we're going to do it, I'll announce it, for sure. But yeah. So, but anyway, thanks for joining us, Ryan. I hope you had a good time.
I did. Thank you guys so much for having me, and I can't believe this. Happy almost 3 years, Ross.
Oh, thank you. Is this at the end of the third year now? Is this 3 whole years that we're coming up on?
Well, no, we're in the 4th season, but we pretty much hit the 3-year mark in April. April was 23 was the start of the show.
Me, it's my 3rd year starting.
Yeah. You're going into your 4th year. Yeah, it seems longer than that. We'll have to do a flashback of the episode Ross was first on, when he was just really quiet and just very reserved.
I know.
The beard.
The beard, yeah. When it was reasonable at the start, yeah. But then I just took advantage.
Actually, the beard did. It controlled your mind.
I think so.
You heard of the movie The Man with Two Brains? It's the movie Ross with the beard.
With the beard. There you go.
Anyway, live long and prosper, folks. May the force be with you, and we will see you next Friday.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.